This is a video tutorial for the Happy Days Summer Sun Hat. It comes in 3 sizes and is fully reversible, and here's how you make it. To start, you'll need to cut out a brim and 6 pieces of crown fabric for the inner. And for the outer, cut out exactly the same, 1 brim and 6 pieces of the crown. And this is how we'll make it. Take your brim piece and fold in half right sides together, so the pretty sides are together. Line up the curve around both edges and line up the top edge, and then add some clips to the end. And then, using a 1/4 inch seam allowance, sew all along this edge. I've sewn all along, and I'm going to put this to one side for the moment. Next, place your crown pieces right sides up in pairs. Then take the first one and place it right sides together. Ensure that the bottom edge and the sides all line up, and then clip or pin into place. And repeat that for this pair and this pair. Once you've clipped your pairs into place, take them over to the sewing machine and, using a 1/4 inch seam allowance, start at the bottom and sew. Take your time, sew all the way around the curve to the top and stop, and repeat this for the other 2. I've sewn joining the pairs together, and the next stage is to open up and take over to iron and press this seam carefully open, and do that on the other pairs. I've pressed open all the seams, and the next part is to take 2 of your pieces that you've just joined up, and we're going to join these up as well. So carefully, right sides together so that the fabrics are different, so it'll all be in the right order. Line up the bottom edge and line up the curve. Pin or clip into place. And then, using a 1/4 inch seam allowance again, start at the bottom, sew all the way to this top line, to the top line of stitches that you've made, and stop. I've sewn all along, again using a 1/4 inch seam allowance, stopping at the line of stitches at the top, and now I'm going to take it over to the iron and once again open up the seams. Next, take your remaining pair and once again right sides together, line up the bottom and the sides, clip or pin, and then once again over to the machine, 1/4 inch seam allowance, sew all the way around to the top. I've sewn and pressed open the seams once again, and the final bit of sewing on the crown is joining up. So pin or clip and then take it over your sewing machine And once again, 1/4 inch seam allowance starting at the bottom, so all the way around to the very top. Once you've sewn all your 6 pieces together, it'll look like this. So we'll just turn it the right way. And it's looking more like a hat now. And now we're going to put the brim on. Next, take your brim that you made earlier, press open the seam and press the opposite side as well for a nice sharp crease. Now take your hat that you made earlier and open up your brim, and using the centre seam on the brim, choose one of your seams on your hat. I'll pick this one, and then match them up. Take your time with this. Open up the seams as well so they're nice and flat. And when you're happy with them, pop a clip in. And then take the creased brim that you made the crease in, and then place that on the corresponding opposite seam. And again, when you're happy with the placement, add a clip. I've continued adding clips all the way around, joining the rim to the crown, and now I'm going to take it out of the sewing machine, and using a 1/4 inch seam allowance I'm going to sew all the way around, joining everything together. Take your time with this, use as many pins as you want or clips and you'll be fine. I've sewn all the way around, joining the brim to the crown. Now I'm going to turn it the right way. Right. It's looking more like a hat now. I'm going to give it a nice press, and then I'm going to start on the lining. To make the lining, you follow the steps exactly the same way. I've made the lining in exactly the same way as the outer, and I'm leaving it this way around for the moment. With the outer the right way around, and with the lining the wrong way around, we're going to place them right sides together on top and line up this seam and the seam on the outer together and put some clips in. I put lots of clips all the way around, and I've ensured that the edges of the outside of the rim all line up. I've remembered to leave a gap for turning. I've matched up this side seam and the side seam underneath, and I've also matched up this centre crease we made on both sides and lined up. Starting on the centre seam, using a 1/4 inch seam allowance, sew across and stop, do a few back stitches, start again, back stitch again, and using a 1/4 inch seam allowance, sew all the way around the brims, joining them all together until you get back to the starting point. Remember, we're leaving a gap for turning. I've sewn all the way around the brim, and I've remembered to leave a gap, and through that gap now I'm going to turn it the right way. I folded in the raw edge where I'd left the gap, and I've added some clips, and I've pressed all the way around. And now I'm going to take it over the sewing machine and sew in relatively close to the edge, top stitch all the way around. And this will seal the gap I left. I've sewn all the way around, and you can leave the hat like this if you wish, or you can sew several more lines all the way around until you reach the top. I've sewn several rings around the brim on this summer sun hat, but I haven't on this one, and it's just to show you the two different styles which can be achieved. And that's your summer sun hat by Happy Days, all finished.